Welcome to Gold Derby. I'm senior editor Denton Davidson here with the great Rickey Minor, a two-time Emmy-winning musical director who was back at the 95th Academy Awards earlier this year. Rickey, you're all over the place. I mean, if people can think of a TV special they've watched or an awards show in recent years, they've heard your music. So what was it like this year? You know, you get the call, Rickey, we need you to be the musical director at the Oscars. How much time they give you, and what's the first thing that goes through your head at that moment?
Well, the time that they give it usually happens somewhere around October. You'll get the call, or the call goes out basically. And what goes through my mind is, how can I make it better? Always, no matter what job or who the artist or who the client is, what can I do? What can I bring to make it better? And not better than anyone else. It's just the best that I can do. What is that thing that's going to elevate it? And the first thing is to come in with ideas of how to do that musically, because that's my area, musically, how to make it feel. What do I want this feeling? And then bring it to the producers and discuss it of what ideas I have for this year's awards. Of course, we have not a shortage of material to choose from outside of the music that's nominated, or the shows and films that are nominated for this year. What all the other things we have are 95 years of music
Right.
to pick and choose from. So you can borrow from those things. I mean, we do some generic play-ons as well, and try to look at the personalities, but you start with a list of things that I would love to hear, that I haven't forgotten about in my years of watching television and hearing these beautiful scores and music from songs and music from these movies. But it's so strange because it's a jigsaw puzzle, and everything really has to fit in exactly: timing, tempo, feel, from various countries all over the world, because we do the Oscars are here in Hollywood, but the movies are universal.
Right.
And so there are great movies that are made from and I pick music from. I make sure that some of my favorites I love to hear, like Lalo Schifrin or the Pawnbroker with Quincy Jones, and of course you're not gonna always have some Hans Zimmer and all these different people, even things that they have nominated this year. But there are pieces that inspire me, and then I think about pacing. So it's a lot.
I mean, it's like 160 pieces of music or something like that you have to be ready for, correct?
Well, there's approximately that number. I mean, it varies from year to year, but the way technology has helped us now, back in the early days, it was literally whatever the amount of music that was heard on the telecast was live. But now with technology, I mean, imagine the best movie of the year, 10 songs, and you have a one sheet cue with about 8 bars that you repeat of that cue, and the orchestra's waiting for you, and here you are, you're ready. And then they said, whatever the name of the song, number two. So I mean, it's that quick. You gotta play the cue. And what if you have redoublers, and I should be playing flute, oh, but I have my tenor, oh, I should have had my alto. So you have to make it so that whatever the cue is, they all have to have the same instrumentation. So now we're able to pre-record the the winner play-ons, because there's so many of them that you can't make the change and be ready to do a presenter play on, and then a winner play on, then to play them off. And so there's all of that in compartments. So we do, we lay out what needs to be pre-recorded first and mixed, so that the winner, because what we've done in the past is, if you have um, from 1 to 3 nominations for a particular film, you get one play on that for a winner play on that can be played in the event that your show or your film wins, whether it's for best song or writer or director, whatever it is. If you have between 3 and 6, you get 2 play-ons, and if you have up to 9 or basically 10, then you get 3 play-ons that they can go back and forth. Because imagine if you win all 10 awards, you win 10 awards and that same cue is being played.
Yeah.
That's okay. But it's nice if you hear other cues from the film. That was the thought of it, at least in the first years that I did it. So those things have to be pre-recorded, and that's a big chunk already, because that gives the director an instant. There's not even a wait for, and the winner is blah 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 music, and we're fast on it like that too. But if there's so many cues, now we have technology, so we lay it in, and they're able to play that mixed and very great sounding thing. But the live stuff is as especially this year, with being on stage and being stage right, set up where sonically we had more room for sound to go. In the pit, it's dark, and it's the ceiling is low, and so and I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying it's just a different sound. And so I think sonically we were able to things were able to ring out a little more, being on stage, and that felt good.
Were you also involved in those individual original song numbers, like Natu, or did those people bring their own bands? Or do they?
And generally, everyone is not only thrilled but honored to be working with the orchestra for the Academy Awards. And so I would say 9 times out of 10 we do that, and we bring in people who are specific to it. And so there was research going into the players and stylistically and making sure we capture it. So we did I think we did everything but Lady Gaga, and we didn't do Rihanna.
Okay.
And Gaga was a last minute addition, and so either their team can foot the bill and do it on their own, or they can use the orchestra and they don't have to pay for that, So most people, and they love it, but sometimes it comes in last minute. Some artists want to have creative control over it, but they still have to run it by the producers. So either way, it's the same process.
The band gets blamed for playing people off during their acceptance speeches. Have you ever felt wrongfully blamed for that? Because that's not your fault. Has any celebrity ever yelled at you for playing them off?
One time. One time, he didn't yell at me, but it was I was conducting the Emmys, and an actor won an award and came up, and it was going on, and it was very emotional, and they tell them already. I mean, you got 45 seconds, go, and it times down, and then it says wrap it up, and then so what we record or what we call chasers, and it starts very soft and with a piano, and it builds and builds. And it's not a consideration for the rest of the people. But this person said, I've waited my whole life to do this. Stop the music. Stop it. I'm going to talk and something, And but the music just kept going, but fortunately I knew the person, and we had a laugh about it. He said, I was just so emotional. I had to thank all the people got me, every single one. I had my list, and I was going to thank them, man. If I may never get a chance to get up here again. I said, well, with that behavior, you probably won't get up here again. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, when people are in the moment, we give them a little leeway. I mean, no one has really been bombastic, playoff, and in some cases, what they've done when that does happen is they warn, blinks, then they just turn their mic off. They have to stop it, stop the hemorrhaging. And we've been kind, and we've explained to everyone gets 45 seconds. You're taken away from someone else, and the show's going to go off, and someone may not get a chance to say anything because You stood up there and thank everyone from your kindergarten teacher to your baker and your, and the painter, and so
It can be too much.
yeah.
You also have this great relationship with the Grammys, and you've done these wonderful Grammy salutes. You've done them for Aretha Franklin, the Bee Gees, Motown, and most recently you had one for Paul Simon. Can you talk about Paul Simon briefly and why you liked or loved being part of that project so much, and what musicality you wanted to share about him and his life?
Well, all of these artists that you mentioned, and there's several more in doing these kind of shows, and music is such a high vibration. And for me to come from, Louisiana, moving here with my family at a young age, and then growing up in South Central in the projects in Watts, and going to UCLA and really finding my way, but putting out my intention, it just, the things that, it's like the Rumi quote, what you seek is seeking you. So do the work. And because people say I'm out here just trying to network. And I said, look, do the work and say, I got to make it happen. No, do the work and watch it happen. It's going to happen because of the work you did. Because what happens when you get the call and you're not ready because you do more talking and it's not enough studying and action and putting in having a plan, So I think it's an honor for me. If I get those calls, I look at that as I get an opportunity to salute and to pour into these performers and performances. And that's the other part. The collaboration with the artist is everything, because helping them either find the song that they want to do and then helping them find the treatment, because the job is really not that difficult. The job is to help guide the performers back to the center of who they are and what speaks to them. I'm not trying to get them to do what I want them to do. I want to help them find the thing that resonates for them in their performance. And if they want to do it like the record, fine. But most times they want to do something a little different, And so having the Paul Simon thing, I know that music inside and out, from I remember hearing Aretha do Bridge Over Troubled Water, and then going backwards and being introduced that it was, Simon and Garfunkel. So, and then having played that song many times with so many other artists, you look for ways to do it that speaks to the artist so that they can let their heart sing.
How long have you known that music was in your blood? I mean, was that just a gift you were born with, or did you grow into it? At what age was little Rickey composing music?
Well, when we moved out here from Louisiana, I just loved music. I love the way it made me feel. I love dancing to it. I love singing along with it. And it wasn't long before the Jackson 5 came along, and everyone in the projects, we were emulating the Jackson 5. And so I was no different. We won a talent show. We won $5 each. Just trying to figure it out. And my uncle helped us get a band. He went to local high schools and had a band behind us. Now we're really like, oh, we're doing it. Then of course the band went on and graduated from high school, and they went on in their lives. And my uncle told us we need to learn how to play an instrument because it's, you can't find any musicians in the local area that want to back you guys up. So I picked the bass because I sang Jermaine Jackson's part.
Okay.
So I wanted to keep my same vocal part, because other than Michael, no one else got to really step out and sing a line, So that was my reason for playing bass. That's why I play bass. And then I just studied. I practiced and I took lessons. I sold the soda bottles and the Pepsi bottles, whatever bottles, and I saved enough to take lessons and go in the yellow pages and do that. So it was really that whole thing, what you seek is you. It was calling you, and it's answering the call. You're going to get a lot of calls. You're going to get a lot of people who will get the call, and it will speak to you. But it's a matter of answering the call. Like, you may be into photography, then you may be into music, you may be into computers, whatever that is. But you have to answer the call and see if that's for you. Everything's not for you, and that's okay. So it spoke to me, and I started my own band. I got my bass at 13, bought it from a little pawn shop, and it was $50. And I don't know how my parents were able to give me that money, because back then that was a lot of money. And but I just took to it, and I kept practicing, and I took the bus across town, and I just felt that it was for me. But fast forward, I get a full scholarship to UCLA because math is my thing. So I got a math scholarship, math, computer science. And here I am at UCLA. I have my band. We're doing weddings, proms, bat mitzvahs. I played my own prom. That year we did 14 proms, and one of them was my own.
Wow.
And so and I love music, but then I got this scholarship. I kept the band together, but then I decided to stop with the band. And from that moment, I knew that I wanted to play. So I moved back to Watts, to the project with my mom for a couple of months till I figured it out. And I found a back house in Watts, $100 a month. I lived there for 5 years. No TV, no girlfriend, no nothing but practicing. And I practiced by candlelight because I couldn't really afford the electric bill to go up. So you make the sacrifices, but I'll tell you, I was happy as a lark, and I was, nothing made me happier. And I left school to play music, and I told my mom, I don't care about being rich, famous, or any of that. I just want to be happy. So I'm not interested. I had a job already waiting for me at IBM and the gas company. I had jobs waiting if I kept my GPA up. So it was just a choice to be happy and do what I love to do. Do what you love what you do, you're good.
And then how did that call from Whitney Houston come along? Because you were with her for years. I mean, on the road, you almost grew up together on that stage.
Because so the Whitney story is interesting because by then, my first gig was Gladys Knight around 1979.
Okay.
Then I met Whitney, I think in 1981. I had been working with Gladys, and I met this guy who was Whitney's music director, but he was Stephanie's music director, Stephanie Mills' music director first. So he said, I got this girl singing, sings at this church that I play at some time, whatever the story was. I don't remember exactly. But he said, I'm doing a showcase in LA. Can you put a band together for this girl? And that was Whitney Houston. She was 18 and I was 22. And we met there. She didn't get the deal because at that time, people wanted a group, Earth, Wind, and Fire, The Whispers, Shalimar, Rolls Royce. You had to be in a group, not and people would walk in and wouldn't even listen. It's like, what's she gonna do? Just stand there and sing? I mean, where's the horns and the dancers and the whole, And so we stayed in touch a little bit through John, and then he called and said that Whitney wanted me to join the next tour. They had done a short tour, and now they're going to do a world tour. And so so I had just finished I think Dreamgirls or something. I'd been playing in the pit, and I got the call to go on tour, and that was the rest of his history. Then John, of course, passed away from AIDS. And she called me and said he's sick, and 2 weeks later he had passed. And I was on tour with Al Jarreau by then, and I said, she said, I'm going to need you, and then it happened. So I became music director in '89, and had did the other tours, I think '83 and '85 tours, something like that.
Wow. When you're working with singers like Gladys and Whitney, they don't sound the same twice. I mean, they really go off. So what is that like to back someone up like that when they're constantly veering off course? I mean, is that just when the band has to stand their toes? Is that you're trained to do that?
I think your training comes right into play. I mean, if she goes around another time, I had cues where we go again, and they just follow me. But most of the time, because the tour is where it is, I mean, there are numbers where we do that, but most of the numbers are set because there's lighting cues, there's set pieces that are moved in and out, so there's more than just the music that's affected. If you go from, say, one ballad to an uptempo song, but you say you break it down, you do something different, they can do it on the fly, but a lot of the movement is choreographed to the music already. And especially now, a lot of it's linked up. I mean, you can literally have one box that cues everything, the lighting set up, and the band, now we have, with the technology, we have one button and we're on a whole nother setup, with different sounding keyboards, not just one keyboard like in the old days where it's just a piano. The piano is now MIDI, and it can play itself, and it can do all sorts of stuff. But I think with her, with Whitney and people like that, and Whitney, Adele, Beyonce, I mean, all of them, Usher, they all have their own way. And you just have to figure out what they need and meet them at their need. It's really easy. I'm thinking people make it complicated, but anyone can make the simple complicated. It's, can you make the complicated simple? That's the key.
Well, I could talk to you all day about all this stuff that you've been doing throughout your career. I mean, the Tonight Show, American Idol, the Kennedy Center honors, always the Grammys, the Emmys. You've really done it all and become the premier go-to guy for a music director in the business. So that's to be commended. Two-time Emmy winner, and hopefully we see you back for the Oscars this year and that Paul Simon tribute. Grammy salute, and best of luck to you again.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate your time, and I know that you can always make more money, but you can't get more time. So your time is valuable to me, and I appreciate you taking the time to just have a conversation about all the love that music brings, and just happy to be in the business, at all.
All right. Thanks so much.